Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. I don't know where to begin. This episode, I'm going to sit there and say, for the most part, it was pretty enjoyable. Okay? It was pretty enjoyable. It was so enjoyable that it made me contemplate if I should do a live stream or not. Now, I've been wondering all day if I was actually going to do one because let's just sit there and say it's been a day. But I'll talk about that more towards the end of this video. Okay. Um, so Danny finds Jason, and Danny's sitting there asking questions like, where are you going? How long are you going to go for? And, Jason's like, I can't really give you answers. I can't really get into that. One of the things that irks me, I'll sit there and say, is when he says that he's not leaving by choice. It's out of his control pretty much. And I'm like, well, that's not true. Okay? That's not true. You could just let Carly face her crimes and you can stay. Okay? You could have chose to ignore Anna, got that damn phone, and turned it in. And then Carly will be free, Valentine will be behind bars, and you would have time to spend with your children. But you did what you always do. Protect Carly and Sonny at all costs. See, I'm a huge Jason fan, right? But I know there's a lot of people that don't like him. So much they don't like the choices that he makes. And one of the things that has disappointed a lot of people is the fact that when he came back, nothing's changed. He is still protecting Carly. He's still protecting Sonny, who does not show him the same loyalty. Which, by the way, that's another option you could have did. You could have simply turned Sonny in and spend time with your children. But you pick those people over your children and then lie to his face, as heartbroken as he is, lie to his face and say, I don't have a choice. I can't sit there and give him a pass, and he's my favorite character. He does eventually get stopped as he's about to leave for the bus by Jocelyn. To tell him about the Carly situation. And let's talk about Carly for a minute. So Carly is deciding to take all of John's stuff and just take it out the room. So he had, the staff do that and was like, hey, listen, if he doesn't pick the stuff up, it's going in the streets. Okay? I don't want my lobby cluttered up with his itch. It's going in the streets. So after John is, talking to Ava about, trying to get Jason to flip by sending him away from Port Charles in the hopes that he'll turn around and be like, okay, I'm going to sit there and turn in Sonny. And if I don't do that, and even if he didn't, Sonny will get so volatile that it would just mess him up in court. And either way, Ava will get exactly what she wants. So they're hanging out, kissing and everything like that. And he goes to go get some scotch or whatever. Goes to his room, his car key doesn't work. He goes downstairs to talk to the clerk. And, Jocelyn and Gio are, going to the hotel. He wanted to sit there and talk to Sonny, but Sonny had this intense conversation with Diane, and Josh was like, yeah, this is not the time to do it. Which, by the way, the only thing that I can sit there and say about that conversation is that Ava got visitation rights. And despite Sonny's wishes, Diana's like, that's not going to work, and we can't sit there and stop it. We got to go with the course, otherwise it's going to look bad in the court's eyes to make it seem like you're punishing the mother of your child. So Jocelyn is talking to Carly, and she sees that Carly's off. So she's like, hey, is everything all right? And anyway, John gets down there to talk to one of the clerks. And Carly's like, hey, you know what? Listen, why don't you go on a break? I'll take care of this. And she pretty much just tells him, hey, you know what? I'm kicking you out. Get your ish and get the F up out my hotel pretty much. And John is like, what charges, this, that, and, I mean, like, what grounds do you have to kick me out? They get to talking, and, Carly just gets more angrier and angrier. And John brings up Jason, being like, hey, listen, why don't you sit there and talk to Jason? Just to kind of rile her up a little bit. Now, see, this is where it gets kind of very messy because Carly tries to come across as a badass, right? And she's all like, you want to sit there and come at me for RICO violations and this, that, and the third, come at me. And she says this in front of everybody. So Sonny and Diane and Gio and Jocelyn are just, and everyone else is sitting there just looking at this whole thing. So she's getting all loud and everything like that. And my whole thing is like, what did Jason say? Jason said, live your life, take care of your kids, and don't get arrested. Don't sit there and confess pretty much. But Carly, as much as I like the character, Carly can be very stupid in a sense because she gets so emotional just by the simple fact that he brings up Jason's name, and she's all like, keep his name out of your mouth, which reminds me of well, we all know where that quote came from. If you know where that quote came from, write it in the comment section. But it just gets louder and louder and louder, and she starts just pretty much being like, oh, you want to arrest me, this, that, and the third. You think I'm some sort of big mob boss or whatever. And John's like, stand down. Like you doing a little bit too much. Kind of giving her a heads up, like, you don't want to go, you don't want to sit there and go this route. But she keeps going and going and going and going and going. And finally, John's like, okay, you know what? You're under arrest. And I sit there and I look at that and I'm like, Carly, you had one job. This man sacrificed 2 years of his life with his children so you can be with your children. What is the first thing that you do after you finish talking to Jason? You get your ass arrested. It's like his sacrifice meant nothing because in a lot of ways you have the emotional maturity of a 16-year-old little girl. You're a grown ass adult. You can't sit there and keep your emotions in check and honor Jason's promise that you made to him. And then in 5 minutes you just undo everything that he did. I think that's what makes Jason saying goodbye to his son so much more difficult to watch because he's doing all that and you get arrested. Now, if Jocelyn didn't sit there and stop that whole thing, and Jason didn't find out, he would have been sitting there doing, Jason would have been doing John's bidding, and your ass would have been arrested. Um, Now Anna comes in, and Diane comes in and tries to stop it. But John's like, nope, she's going to jail. And that's when Carter's like, yo, go get Jason. Now Anna goes to the prison to talk to John, Jack Brennan. And I guess one of the guards, I don't know if it's our wardens or whatever, is like, yep, we never heard of that name. I have no idea who you're talking about. Oh, and the guards, they're not going to know who you're talking about either. So if you subpoena them, there's a good chance that they may or may not actually know who you're talking about. So I think that's when she goes back to the Metro Court. Don't know why she actually went to the Metro Court, but she went there and she sees that whole thing. And like I said, she's there trying to stop this whole thing after talking to Sonny. Sonny's like, oh, see, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to come at me to my ex-wife. You know, Sonny, not everything is about you. Just throw that out there. Um, But yeah, that's pretty much how that whole scene goes. Now, the scene with Violet and Sasha is a nice scene, but it also seems like one of those scenes where it's like clutter. Oh, and just a little spoiler alerts. And you can find this on Instagram or whatever, aka Slick Rick. Rick Lansing is coming back. I have no idea when, but he's coming back, and I know some people was like, "Why are they bringing him back?" I don't even know what the people. They don't even know what to do with the people that they already have coming on. But that should be interesting. So yeah, I mean, all she does is sit there and talk about her dad, missing her grandpa, wondering why people are leaving, and Sasha's like, "Hey, I can teach you cooking lessons and sort out your feelings or whatever." It's a nice scene, but it's also just like, what are they gonna do with this character? I think that's my biggest question. What are they gonna do with the I almost actually forgot her damn name. So while that's going on the inside, you got Willow and Wiley hanging out, and she turns around and she sees Drew without a shirt on, and I'm just like, that was a one time thing, right, Willow? I mean, it's never gonna happen again. I mean, she's doing this whole surprise picnic and everything like that for Michael, right? Sees Drew, and she just had to look. She just had to look on her face like she was ready to get it in, right? So they're talking for a little bit, and Michael comes in. Well, at first they're talking, and it's super awkward. They're like, "Hi." I was like, "Okay, y'all at a point. Y'all can't even sit there and say hi to each other. Y'all practically are going to be living in the same house, so this should be interesting." Then Michael comes in, and it just makes things more awkward. And eventually, Drew does leave. Now, Drew isn't there saying that he's feeling nervous because he has some sort of speech he's going to be doing. He's wondering if people are going to show up, right? And Michael, hears this from Willow. Michael makes some phone calls, and there's a point where Michael and Willow are kissing. Drew sees it, and he just has that look on his face like, hmm? And long story short, Michael tells Drew, "Hey, listen, I called some people, whatever, and so you should be getting some people to come to your whole rally, whatever." So what Drew says thank you, and I'm pretty sure he feels guilty. And then when Drew leaves, Michael's like, "No, I did it for you. I did it for you, Willow. You didn't do it for Drew though. Also, I mean, you're trying to make it seem like this whole gesture was just for Willow, just to make Willow feel even worse. So throughout this most of the scenes, she's just there talking about how much she loves him, she cherishes their life, and she's appreciative of him, and this, that, and the third. And it's just this really overcompensating scene, and you're just not just like, wow, you really appreciate him, right? I mean, that's just why you're lying straight to his face, right? Because you appreciate him. I mean, you kissed his uncle. You kissed his uncle because of fireworks. Okay, you had what, maybe a glass of wine and some fireworks, and that's all it took you to rile you up or whatever. But you want to sit there and say to this man's face that you cherish him. That's really funny. I'm pretty sure she said the same thing about Chase. Yeah. Um. And then they play some sort of game of catching up with their day. I don't even remember how it went because it just seemed kind of cringe. But um. Oh yeah, there was one point where Drew came back there to try to get his watch, and Willow, hands it to him, and they touch hands for a minute, and they look at each other. I'm just like, so this is a one time thing, right, Willow? That was just a one time thing. Got caught up in the fireworks and excitement and every other BS excuse that you sat there and used. Okay, okay. And I was almost gonna forget about the TJ and Molly scene, which is really odd because I just mentioned this her dad. Anyway, TJ tells Molly about the interview with Perez Hilton, and here's their takeaway. Okay, they have been so obnoxious and so insufferable it's just beyond me, right? So they go through the whole thing, and their takeaway is when Perez was sitting there asking about the baby, and Christina didn't clarify that she's only having this baby because of those two, they assume that she is claiming the baby on live television, okay? And that it was all part of her grand master plan. Wow, that's even saying that out loud, I'm just like, how do you have these two so called smartest people in the room jump to such an idiotic conclusion? And it's almost like they've been paranoid from jump. And it's almost like they wanted to jump to that conclusion. They sat there and they looked at that that interview as a way to validate their already paranoia. Now, to be fair, Christina has been blurring the lines like there's no tomorrow. But just because she didn't sit there and just because she didn't sit there and say outright, oh well, I'm really doing this for my sister because she can't have a baby, so I want to sit there and really help them out. So I gave up 9 months of my body having to go through God knows how many changes to sit there and help out my sister. Because she didn't sit there and divulge that information, you jump to the worst conclusion. And then, of course, Molly just goes off. Just goes off and really lets you know how she feels about her sweet sister. As far as kids, brings up the whole cult thing. I mean, oh man, talk about a train wreck that we all saw coming, and yet still here for the ride. Um, then towards the end, she's like, you know how we're gonna sit there and deal with this through the law. Okay, cool. Hell, give her the benefit of the doubt, but no, this works too. This works as well. Huh. So, like I said, I think that's the gist of the episode. Something else to tell you that much. Yeah, I feel like that's about it. Oh, also, I had to sit there and say it. I had to sit there and say it. Well, there's times I have to sit there and admit when I'm wrong. There's times I have to sit there and admit when somebody else is right. Sam was right. Sam Sam was right. She did sit there and get upset with Jason for coming back in Danny's life if he wasn't going to sit there and stay around and just leave. Oh, by the way, Jason, gave his bike to Danny. I mean, he's not going to be a father to him, but he gave him his bike, so that means absolutely nothing. And I can't even be sarcastic about that. But she was right. Blew into town, and he's leaving, and Danny's going to be a wreck. And he chose Carly instead of his own son. And I sat there and said, well, we all know what I said. Oof, okay, I guess I gotta sit there and take my L. Okay, alright. Well, with that being said, I'm gonna go. Most likely, I'm not gonna do a stream. I want to do a stream, but I don't know if I'm gonna actually have the time. I'm gonna try and see. I do have to wake up early in the morning, so it's really up in the air right now. Just check the community tab, and you know, we'll go from there. And if I don't, then we definitely gonna be talking about this tomorrow because I have a lot more time to do the stream. Um. Anyway, with that being said, I'm gonna go. I'll see you in the next video.